The following content may include discussions or topics that could be triggering or upsetting to individuals who have experienced similar traumas. Viewer discretion is advised.
Imagine stepping into a story where every detail matters, where the decisions of a family led to unthinkable tragedy. In this episode, the heartbreaking tragedy of Jeremy Perkins, When Faith Fails and Madness Prevails, you'll uncover 3 crucial insights that make this a must-listen for anyone seeking to understand the complex intersection of faith, mental illness, and tragedy. You'll learn how the Perkins family deep-rooted faith in Scientology influenced their every decision, leading them to reject traditional psychiatric help in favor of alternative treatments. This decision set the stage for a disaster that no one saw coming. We'll dive into the mind of Jeremy Perkins, exploring the signs of his eroding mental health that were missed, ignored, or misunderstood. You'll hear the chilling details of how these warning signs escalated, culminating in a horrific act that changed his life and his community forever. Finally, you'll gain exclusive insights into how this tragedy could have been prevented. With our investigative experience and presenting of first-hand accounts, we'll reveal the moments where intervention might have made a difference and why the path taken led to such a devastating end. So here's the question you can't afford to miss. Could the very faith that promised salvation have played a role in this unspeakable tragedy? Stay with us as we unravel the layers of this complex and heart-wrenching story and discover why understanding what happened to Jeremy Perkins is not just important, it's essential. My name is Sandy McKenna, and along with Abraham Ulrich, we take you on an investigative journey through the Perkins case that will leave you questioning not only the decisions made, but also the very nature of belief itself. Your understanding of faith, mental health, and tragedy will never be the same.
Elli Perkins' life was a tapestry woven with vibrant threads of art, love, and an unyielding belief in the power of the human spirit. Her journey was anything but ordinary, stretching from the counterculture of the 1960s to the quiet suburbs of Western New York, where she would eventually make a name for herself as a successful artist and businesswoman. But beyond her achievements in the world of glass painting, Elli was a woman whose essence was defined by her compassion, idealism, and unwavering faith in spiritual healing. Born Elli Present, she grew up in a time of great change, and like many of her generation, she was drawn to the promise of peace, love, and understanding that the 1960s seemed to offer. She ventured into the heart of the hippie movement, from the muddy fields of Woodstock to the freewheeling streets of Haight-Ashbury, in search of something more, something deeper. But instead of finding answers, she found herself lost in a world that was, for all its idealism, also fraught with confusion and disillusionment. Elli's early years in the counterculture left her feeling adrift. She was shy and introverted and struggled to communicate her art to others, let alone sell it. A particularly traumatic experience, watching a boyfriend descend into the abyss of drug abuse and end up in a psychiatric hospital, forced her to reevaluate her path. Disillusioned with the hippie lifestyle, Elli returned to Western New York, seeking solace and a new direction. It was during this period of soul-searching that Elli discovered Scientology. The teachings of L. Ron Hubbard provided her with a framework for understanding her past traumas and a pathway towards self-improvement. Scientology, Elli would later say, helped her find her voice, allowing her to communicate with others in ways she never thought possible. With a renewed confidence, she met and married Don Perkins, a local carpenter, and together they began building a life that was as much about love and family as it was about art and business. The Perkins faced their fair share of challenges. With 2 young children, Jeremy and Danielle, and a struggling art career, Elli knew she needed to find a way to support her family financially while still staying true to her creative passions. The answer came in the form of glass painting. Introduced to the art by a friend, Elli and Don seized the opportunity to turn their newfound craft into a thriving business. They worked tirelessly creating and selling thousands of glass paintings, or sun catchers as they were often called, at local malls, fairs, and craft stores. Ellie's art was more than just a means of income. It was an expression of her desire to bring beauty into the world. Her glass paintings, featuring delicate depictions of animals, rural scenes, and plant life, became a staple in homes across Western New York and beyond. Despite the hard work and long hours, Ellie found immense satisfaction knowing that her creations brought joy to others. Quote, "I like doing this because it fulfills my artistic goal of bringing beauty into the world and making people happy, as well as the money," end quote, she once said. But Ellie's story wasn't just about glass and paint. At her core, she was a deeply spiritual person who believed in the goodness of people. She was convinced that past traumas and upsets could be healed, not through drugs or force, but through spiritual means. As a Scientologist, Ellie dedicated much of her life to helping others find their own path to self-awareness and spiritual fulfillment. Her work as a spiritual counselor was in many ways the most important part of her life. Ellie believed that by reconnecting with their spiritual essence, people could rediscover the infinite love that was their birthright. Ellie's life was also defined by her love for her family. Her marriage to Dawn was by all accounts a great love story. Despite 3 decades together, they remain as devoted to each other as they had been in the early days of their relationship. Ellie's friends and family remember her as a gentle, courageous, and lighthearted person who had an infectious sense of humor. She was a woman who believed in the power of love and who lived her life in service to others. In the end, Elli Perkins' legacy is not just the thousands of glass paintings that now hang in homes and offices across the country. It is the lives she touched, the smiles she helped to restore, and the love she shared with those around her. Ellie's journey from the counterculture to the quiet suburbs of Williamsville may have been long and winding, but it was a journey that brought beauty, hope, and healing to all who knew her.
The Perkins family lived at 1435 Hopkins Road, Williamsville, New York. From the outside in, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Williamsville is a charming village within the town of Amherst, New York, with a unique blend of historical significance and suburban life. Nestled in the Buffalo-Niagara Falls metropolitan area, Williamsville gives us a glimpse into the rich history of Western New York, while embodying the quintessential American suburban experience. Williamsville's origins trace back to the early 19th century when Jonas Williams, the village's namesake, built the first mill by Glen Falls on Ellicott Creek in 1811. The village grew around this water-powered industry, eventually incorporating in 1850. But by the 1970s, Williamsville had become a well-established community, with its historic roots still visible in landmarks such as Williamsville Watermill and the Eagle House, a tavern and inn built in 1827. Family life in Williamsville revolved around a strong sense of community, deeply intertwined with the village's historic charm, punctuated by churches of all denominations. The Williamsville Central School District, which served the village and surrounding areas, was a focal point for families offering high-quality education that attracted many to the area. In 1971, a short 20 minutes away in Buffalo, New York, the Church of Scientology was established. Williamsville was a small yet vibrant village with a population at the time of just over 5,500 residents. As the village grew, so did the Perkins family. Jeremy Perkins was born on December 20, 1974, and daughter Danielle arrived a year later. Jeremy was diagnosed with scarlet fever at age 6 and as a result repeated the first grade. He was also allergic to bees. As the 1970s came to a close, Don and Ellie reached a significant level of spiritual development within their church, known as Clear. Ellie mastered the e-meter and established herself as a highly regarded Scientology auditor. Let's have a listen to this clip from Investigation ID's Deadly Devotion.
10 years of auditing and thousands of dollars, Ellie reaches her goal and gets clear. She works up to a level known as Operating Thetan Level 3, or OT3, a level reached by very few in the church. Now Ellie believes she's exploring worlds that only Scientology can make known to her.
Ellie would have heard all kinds of tales about the fantastic superhuman abilities she would get as an OT. People would brag about the amazing things they could do as an OT. They could literally leave their body and go across town. And one woman said that she left her body, went to another city and performed surgery on someone who was dying, and then came back to her body before the night was over. I mean, just amazing tales of the incredible things that you could do once you went OT. So Ellie would definitely have been encouraged that this was where she needed to go.
A typical day for the average family in Williamsville in the 70s might have been the children walking or biking to one of the local schools while parents commuted to nearby Buffalo or worked in local businesses. The village's small size and close-knit community meant that neighbors knew each other well, and it was common for families to gather at events, school functions, and simple evenings in the village's parks. When he was 12, Jeremy said he went through a depression episode, and he also said it resolved itself spontaneously. By the 1980s, Williamsville continued to thrive as a desirable place to live, with its historic charm complemented by modern amenities. The village's schools remained a key draw, and Jeremy Perkins attended Williamsville North High School, known for its academic excellence and wide range of extracurricular activities. During this time, Jeremy had dreams of becoming a rock drummer. He was an average student, however, his SAT scores were low. He played football in his freshman year, but quit because he couldn't take the cold weather. He started drinking at 16, unbeknownst to his parents, and Jeremy said he drank to get drunk, mostly on weekends with his friends. He said he once drank 22 beers in a row. The annual Old Home Days festival, held in Island Park, was a highlight of the community's social calendar. This event, which dates back to the mid-19th century, brought thousands of residents together for a week of parades, carnival rides, and social gatherings. For many families, Old Home Days was a cherished tradition, offering a chance to connect with neighbors and celebrate the village's history. The Perkins family briefly moved to California in the 1980s, during which time Ellie worked at the Celebrity Center in Los Angeles. Eventually, they returned back to Williamsville. The 1990s brought technological advancements and modernization to Williamsville, but the village remained deeply connected to its historical roots. The rise of the internet and home computing began to influence daily life. The village's population remained stable, with a diverse mix of families, retirees, and young professionals calling Williamsville home. The median income for a household during this time was $47,557, with families enjoying a comfortable suburban lifestyle. Despite the changes brought on by modernization, the village's low crime rates and strong community spirit ensured it remained a safe and welcoming place for families. After high school, Jeremy decided to take a break for about 6 months. When he finally enrolled at Erie Community College, things went downhill. He dropped out during the second semester, blaming his struggles with alcohol and trouble focusing. At one point, he even turned to cough syrup and cold meds like pseudoephedrine to try to get high. On May 15th in 1994, Jeremy was charged with a DWI first offense, Class U misdemeanor. He was convicted upon a plea of guilty in July of 1994, and the charge was reduced to a DWAI. He was fined $300 and mandated to a 6-week drug and alcohol course.
As the 90s were coming to a close, Jeremy and the Perkins clan set sail on Scientology's Free Winds, a ship known for its exclusive high-security environment. They weren't just embarking on just any vacation. They were diving into advanced Scientology courses. Jeremy had his sights set on completing 2 significant milestones, the OT debug service and the State of Man Congress course. The Free Winds was no ordinary vessel. It stays docked in the Caribbean and never sets foot in American waters, ensuring privacy and exclusivity. To even get on board, Scientologists must first undergo a thorough vetting process at their local organization. Jeremy's first course, the OT debug service, was a special offering only available on the Free Winds. It was designed to pinpoint why someone may be stuck and not progressing through the OT levels, a crucial part of Scientology's bridge. The process involves a 13-page checklist and extensive questioning either on or off the e-meter to uncover obstacles that may be hindering one's advancement. The whole experience came with a price tag of about $5,000. In this high-security specialized setting, Jeremy was looking to push past his current plateau and begin his journey towards the bridge to total freedom. In the 90s, Elli Perkins married fellow Scientologist Jeff Carlson, who eventually became the executive director of Scientology's Buffalo org. During this period, Elli Perkins Carlson was called to the Flag Land Base in Clearwater, Florida, for 3 years of Scientology training. Her husband Jeff didn't go with her and only saw her a few times during that period. As the new millennium began, Williamsville continued to be a high desirable place to live within the Buffalo-Niagara Falls metropolitan area. The village's school, historic charm, and close-knit community made it an ideal environment for raising a family. The median income for a family in the village had risen to $65,000, reflecting the continued economic stability and prosperity of the area. For most Williamsville residents, family life during the early 2000s was marked by a balance between tradition and modernity. Residents took pride in the village's historic sites, such as St. Peter and St. Paul Church, which had been a spiritual and community center since its founding in the 19th century. At the same time, families enjoyed the benefits of modern amenities with access to quality education, healthcare, and the recreational facilities. Around this time, Jeremy signed the now infamous billion-year contract and flew to Los Angeles to join the Sea Organization, the most dedicated members of the Church of Scientology. Unfortunately, this was not meant to be, and after 3 short months, Jeremy was sent back home because of his mental health issues. Williamsville remained a village that valued its past while embracing the future, making it a special place for all who called it home. Sadly, all was not well on Hopkins Road.
By 2001, things were beginning to take a dark turn. According to Donald Perkins, Jeremy's father, the first signs of mental illness became evident when he was around 26 years old. Jeremy was paired up, or as Scientologists would say, twinned with Anne Marie Dunning on one of the Scientology courses he was taking. They did the TRs, Scientology's training routines, together, and Anne Marie later said she was deathly afraid of Jeremy, that he had a vibe about him, and it terrified her. She equated the look in his eyes to that of Charles Manson. In the spring of 2002, Don Perkins started to notice some unsettling changes in his son Jeremy. It was like his thoughts were taking a strange and bizarre turn. Jeremy began to withdraw more and more, pulling away from the people around him. He started talking about strange phenomena happening around the house, things that didn't quite make sense. Then, about 6 months after 9/11, things took an even more unusual turn. Jeremy believed he could communicate telepathically with President Bush and Bill Gates. This was a huge red flag for Don, who could see that his son's grip on reality was slipping. Jeremy was losing his ability to focus. He even dropped out of a church course because he simply couldn't concentrate anymore. It was clear that something was deeply wrong, and his family was becoming increasingly concerned. While working on his father Don's truck, Jeremy hit his head, and some people believe this worsened his already declining mental state. Ellie and Don took Jeremy for CT scans on 2 different occasions, but no abnormalities were detected. According to John Nucciarino, Jeremy's defense attorney, of the numerous doctors that examined Jeremy, none thought that there was any significance with regard to the bumping of his head. He continues, "The illness took over, to an extent where his father noticed it in his work and had to relieve Jeremy of his employment." By this point, Jeremy was experiencing serious hallucinations and delusions. This bizarre behavior eventually had him declared PTS Type 3, Scientology speak for psychotic. As a result, he no longer was allowed to take Scientology courses and was banned from the building. Jeremy's behavior became more concerning as time went on. He hadn't cut his hair in months, and it got to the point where Don and Ellie had to practically force him to take a shower or brush his teeth. He developed an intense infatuation with his sister's friend Diane after meeting her at the Renaissance Fair. It wasn't just a crush. He became obsessed. Somehow, he got hold of a Cabbage Patch doll that he believed belonged to Diane. At night, he would talk to this doll, convinced that he could bring her to life. Jeremy believed he could communicate with Diane through the doll, and even thought that they had known each other for thousands of years. In his mind, Diane wasn't just a friend. He thought that she was a mermaid in a past life.
Jeremy's behavior grew more alarming over time. He started eating alone because he became convinced that his mother was trying to poison him. Eventually, he stopped eating altogether. He also stopped taking care of himself. No more showers, no more shaving, no more brushing his teeth. His paranoia escalated as well. Jeremy believed that the cars driving by were trying to kill him and that the trees outside were talking to him. It got so bad that he started sleeping in the living room close to his parents' bedroom. He was terrified, convinced that aliens were hiding in the ceiling of his own room. Jeremy went for a second CT scan at Millard Fillmore Suburban Hospital because he was experiencing confusion. Unfortunately, the results were the same as the first scan. Nothing new showed up. But Jeremy's condition wasn't getting any better, so a neurologist stepped in to evaluate him. After looking him over, the neurologist suggested that Jeremy needed to see a psychiatrist and start taking antipsychotic medication. However, Jeremy's parents were devout Scientologists and vehemently opposed psychiatry and the use of any kind of antipsychotic drug. Instead, Mrs. Perkins was a firm believer in treating illnesses with vitamins, herbs, and nutritional supplements. She was convinced that these natural remedies were the best way to help her son, despite the medical advice they were given. In August 2002, Jeremy found himself in trouble with the Buffalo police. It all started when he was on the University of Buffalo campus and things took a strange turn. Jeremy later said he got disoriented and ended up calling the police himself from one of those security telephone poles. After making the call, he just sat down on the grass and waited for them to arrive. Witnesses told the police that they had seen Jeremy peering into car windows, which of course raised some red flags. When the officers asked him, Jeremy didn't hold back. He said, "Yeah, I was looking into cars. I was up all night. I was tired, and I was wanting to get home. Why don't you just arrest me?" But when the police tried to take him into custody, things got a little chaotic. Jeremy resisted, and in the struggle, one of the officers ended up with injuries to his hand and knee. Jeremy also mentioned that he was looking for a girl named Diane, which added another layer of confusion. After his arrest, Jeremy was brought before Buffalo City Court Judge James McLeod, who ordered a psychiatric evaluation. That's called a 730 exam. He was taken to Erie County Medical Center for the evaluation. Dr. John Trenner, the psychiatrist who evaluated him, had some pretty telling observations. He described Jeremy as looking unkempt, with long, uncombed hair and scruffy beard and mustache. Though Jeremy didn't seem to be in acute distress, his speech was disorganized and hard to follow. He talked about strange things happening to him, like objects disappearing when he looked at them. He also admitted to smoking a joint just before his arrest and was worried about being charged for it. At one point, he even smiled and suggested he may just be Jesus Christ, noting that he resembles some portraits of Christ. Dr. Trenner noticed that Jeremy laughed at odd moments and was easily distracted. He concluded that Jeremy couldn't focus on routine questions and wasn't capable of assisting in his own defense. The court ordered a psychiatric exam, which confirmed Jeremy was a schizophrenic.
On August 21st, 2002, Jeremy Perkins went for a second CT scan at Millard Fillmore Suburban Hospital because he was experiencing confusion. Unfortunately, the results were the same as the first scan. Nothing showed up. But Jeremy's condition wasn't getting any better, so a neurologist stepped in to evaluate him. After looking him over, the neurologist suggested that Jeremy needed to see a psychiatrist and start taking some antipsychotic medication. However, Jeremy's parents, as devout Scientologists, with their beliefs strongly opposed to the teachings of psychiatry, didn't believe in the use of any antipsychotic drugs. Instead, Ellie was a firm believer in treating illnesses with vitamins, herbs, and nutritional supplements. She was convinced that these natural remedies were the best way to help her son, despite the medical advice they were given. According to Assistant Erie County DA Ken Case, Jeremy's mother, Ellie, convinced them to discharge him to her so that she could take care of him. Case said the investigation revealed to us that she felt very strongly against further psychiatric treatment. Let's listen to an excerpt from 48 Hours, A Question of Faith, where Scientology's fierce stance against psychiatry is highlighted.
In this letter called The War, he announced that the purpose of Scientology had become the eradication of psychiatry.
I applaud L. Ron Hubbard because he was the person who identified the abuses of psychiatry.
The church referred us to Scientologist Jan Eastgate, president of a Scientology-founded group called the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, dedicated to exposing psychiatric abuses.
Psychiatry as a profession, as an ideology, doesn't work.
How would you describe antipsychotic and psychotropic drugs?
Barbaric, inhumane, should never be used. We're totally opposed to any form of psychiatry.
To become a Scientologist means that one learns that psychiatry is a cosmic devil that is causing mischief and confusion, crime in the world.
Do you believe that psychiatrists are evil?
I think there are a lot of psychiatrists that are evil.
Did Ellie believe that? Did she believe that psychiatry was an evil?
Yeah.
Strongly believed?
Yeah.
Looking back, Jeremy said after the incident at the University of Buffalo, he felt like his skull was cracked, a reflection of just how disturbed and confused he was at that time. In October of 2002, Ellie sought the help of Dr. Conrad Maulfair, an osteopathic physician and Scientologist in Pennsylvania. Dr. Maulfair told the Perkins family that Jeremy was dealing with schizophrenia, which he claimed was caused by a yeast infection of the intestine. He also said that Jeremy had heavy metal poisoning. To treat this, Dr. Maulfair prescribed a daily regimen of vitamins and herbal supplements. Elli Perkins even added clay to some of the capsules, thinking this would remove the toxins. Who was Dr. Maulfair anyway? We consulted his very own website to find out. Dr. Maulfair is a medical detective getting to the bottom of patients' health problems. We firmly believe you are responsible for your health, good or ill, and that doctors should be used as consultants to help clarify your options. You deserve second opinions and should readily seek them when faced with serious conditions. We offer real preventative and restorative medical care and wellness programs. We understand digestion and dysbiosis. We understand minerals, vitamins, and body basics. We know every prescription drug is considered by the body to be toxic to some degree and often damaging. We have been offering a new paradigm in medicine to the people of eastern Pennsylvania and beyond since the late 1970s, and the Hubbard Protocol of sauna detoxification since 2003. Pharmaceutical drugs are often only suppressing symptoms, while the underlying reason for the need to take them is ignored. Medical modalities exist and should be in frequent use before resorting to drugs as an answer to health problems.
This is how Dr. Maulfair explains to his patients the sauna detoxification program. What is the Hubbard Sauna Detoxification Program? A daily sauna program utilizing niacin in concert with other nutrients and aerobic exercise, followed by a low-heat sauna to encourage profuse sweating with breaks as needed to replenish electrolytes, cooling showers. How long does the detox program take? The program is continued until the substances stop coming out of the body, at which point people notice a resurgence of health and well-being. Is there a specialized diet involved in doing this program? The only requirement is a balanced diet with raw or slightly cooked vegetables to ensure adequate fiber intake. Vegetarians and vegans do well as long as protein intake is adequate. Can I do the Hubbard program at home? Yes, Mr. Hubbard made the protocol available to all of society as it is the answer to a widespread contamination as in the case of the Chernobyl disaster. However, it is advised you seek professional help in the delivery of our program. There are many who try on their own and do not do well. The supervision should be objective, and the protocol is an exact set of recommendations that must be closely followed for the expected results. Do you take insurance? We do not. We give you paperwork to submit to your carrier for out-of-pocket network reimbursement. Some people work for self-insured companies, and their employee benefits advisor can help determine if this could be paid as part of their benefits. I am on prescription medication. Will this interfere with the program? Yes, you need to be drug-free when you do this program. There are some medications that will not interfere with the program and can be approved by the physician monitoring your program. Is the detox program safe for pregnant or nursing women? No. Pregnant and nursing women pass along toxins to their children, and you would not want to increase the possibility that a greater volume of toxins would be passed along. How do I know if I have toxins in my body? You can study the results to tissue samples taken from all regions of the country by the EPA and surmise that if they are widespread, you are infected as well. You can undergo a fat biopsy to determine many types of chemicals present, or you can do a heavy metal challenge test or hair analysis and packed red blood cells.
In an October 19, 2019 blog post responding to critics, Dr. Maulfair's wife, Colleen, and executive director of Maulfair Medical Center, wrote the following. It's always disheartening to come across derogatory entries about a person or product you're interested in. We have been silent in the face of internet attacks aimed at stopping any interest or curiosity you might have about us and our very special medical center. You can contact us from the real story direct from our patients who have experienced what we offer. So many of our patients write success stories of many paragraphs. Please just ask and we'll get them to you. Although Dr. Maulfair has been criticized by a few in the past for his choice to offer patients the most modern treatment modalities, often avoiding the use of pharmaceuticals when possible, we find the current attacks on our work disturbing. The internet is a wonderful tool for good, but also for ill. You may run across entries that describe a son who murdered his mother and recordings that have been edited of phone calls to our center from overseas altered to make us look and sound bad. Critics know we are bound by privacy rules we take very much to heart in our medical center. Our patients' information is on our computers that are not connected to the internet, and we only share personal health information when asked by our patients. Regarding the situation of a son who murdered his mother, we acquired a signed written permission statement to speak about it through Jeremy's attorney when it happened in 2005 or so. A psychologist from Carnegie Mellon who hated all churchgoers and churches, including ours, somehow picked up the story and used it to attack Dr. Maulfair, a Christian Scientologist. The truth of our contact with Jeremy is one visit to our office with his parents, who wanted to find out through the special diagnostic studies we use anything that we could do to help him in life. During that visit, our phlebotomist noticed needle tracks on Jeremy's arms. His mother was given advice regarding nutrients so she could offer him help with his health in a phone consultation. But since Jeremy was 26 or so, she could not convince him to return to us for help. 6 or 7 months later, Jeremy murdered his mother. So was it our medical care that tied us to this sad event, or was it our practice of alternative medicine, or our religion? Years later, in 2017, we got a phone call inquiring about how Dr. Maulfair would treat a friend's autistic child. We explained and asked the lady to have her friend contact us, and we would send out the usual information packet. But there were 2 more calls that were disturbing as the lady was grilling us in an unusual way over the phone. We checked the number and found out it was coming from Ireland. Funny, made no sense until the attacks on us over the internet started, and we found that she was a Scientology critic who protested the opening of the new church in Dublin, and in her words, an activist. She had recorded the phone calls, then edited them to alter our conversation. When we checked with the authorities, we found out that although it is illegal in the U.S. to secretly record someone without a warrant, there was nothing we could do as she was not a citizen of the U.S. and not subject to our laws. As you know, nothing substantial can be done to undo the slander, but we know that thoughtful people these days suspect such vehement attacks and seek to find the other side of the story, so we hope this helps. As you might know, we will be happy to help a sincere person understand our work and our approach to our patients' health. Signed, Colleen Maulfair.
In early March 2003, Jeremy's parents decided to take him to Albert's place. Dawn explained that Albert was a man in Springville who helped people with mental health issues by treating them with fresh fruits, vegetables, and herbs without using any drugs. Dawn believed Albert had been quite successful with his approach, but Jeremy didn't feel comfortable there. He felt like an elderly man at the facility was laughing at him, and he was convinced another man had some kind of power to harm people. Jeremy's struggles didn't end there. His parents had registered him with the Alzheimer's Association under a wanderer alert because he frequently ran away from home. There were multiple instances where the police or his father had to track him down and bring him back, often at odd hours. Jeremy took $1,300 from his parents' bed, along with important documents like his birth certificate. His plan was to run away and start a new life. He even took a taxi to rent a room at the Holiday Inn, but returned home before his parents got back. That night, after packing his clothes, he arranged for the same taxi driver to pick him up at the local mobile station. The taxi driver, however, called Jeremy's father to confirm the pickup and also informed him about Jeremy's previous escape attempt. When Don Perkins searched Jeremy's belongings, he found the documents, the money, his clothes, dog food, in a bowl. It turned out that Jeremy had intended to come back for his beloved dog. Ellie and Don felt they could no longer handle Jeremy's behavior. They informed him of their decision to send him back to Albert's place. Donald believes that this news may have triggered the series of events that ultimately led to the tragic homicide.
2 weeks later, on the morning of March 13th, Jeremy Perkins woke up between 7:30 and 8 a.m. For the past 6 months, he had been sleeping on the couch in the living room because he believed there was an alien ship on the ceiling of his bedroom. When he got up that morning, his parents told him they were planning on taking him to Albert's place in Springville, New York. They had become increasingly frustrated with his behavior and lack of personal hygiene. Jeremy had visited Albert's place with his parents 2 weeks earlier, but he made it clear that he didn't want to live there. He felt uncomfortable around the other residents. He thought the elderly man there was laughing at him, and he believed another man had the power to do people in. So when his parents told him that he was going back, he got angry. Trying to keep things normal, he went to have breakfast, but there was nothing normal about how he felt. He believed that drinking orange juice gave him special power to overcome the evil in his mother. After breakfast, his mom asked him to take his daily vitamins, but instead of swallowing them, he flushed them down the toilet. Somehow his mother found out and yelled at him. She then told him to take a shower, which Jeremy found humiliating. To him, being told to brush his teeth and take a shower felt like abuse. He even thought that if a woman he had seen on MTV showed up, she would somehow save him from having to shower. 2 weeks earlier, while helping put up drywall in a church gathering, Jeremy had taken a razor blade and hidden it in his pants pocket. That morning, after his mother insisted he shower, he used the razor blade to cut himself, but stopped because it hurt too much. That's when he made the chilling decision. He would kill his mother instead. Jeremy's mother somehow discovered the razor blade and removed it from the bathroom. After his shower, Jeremy got dressed and came out of the bathroom. He noticed his mother was on the phone in the kitchen. He heard her say, "Hold on, I have to get something from the bedroom." As she walked into the bedroom, Jeremy took a knife from the butcher block in the kitchen and followed her. In the bedroom, his mother was facing away from him, near the corner of the bed. Jeremy turned her around. Despite her saying, "No, Jeremy, no," he stabbed her in the chest. She fell to the floor on her left side, but Jeremy continued to stab her, targeting her right side and her stomach. He then tried to stab her in one of her eyes, though it's unclear which one. Jeremy later said he felt he had to do this because it looked evil. He wasn't able to remove her eye, but he was convinced it was necessary. Afterward, he calmly walked back into the kitchen, hung up the phone, and disconnected the answering machine and the other phones in the house. He washed the knife in the kitchen sink and began planning to move his mother's body to the bomb shelter in the basement. Just as he was gathering plastic to wrap her body, his neighbor Charon arrived. Jeremy isn't clear as to whether she saw him in the front or the back, but when she knocked on the front door, he didn't respond. She let herself into the house and asked, "What's going on, Jeremy? Open up the door." He replied, "Mom and I are busy. I'm not going to open the door." She told him she was going to call the police. When the police arrived, they ordered him to open the door. At first he refused, but eventually he opened it. Inside, the police found his mother's body. Jeremy's only statement at the time was, "Someone else did it."
Witness accounts, March 13, 2003. Paula Brumsky, a close friend of Elli Perkins, shared her experience from that fateful morning. Between 9:30 and 10 a.m., I called Elli at her home on Hopkins Road in Amherst. Paula recalled, "Elli answered and she said she was just thinking about me. Her husband, Don, was home at the time because he had forgotten his wallet and had come back to get it. As we were talking, I could hear her saying something to Don, and then it sounded like he was leaving the house. Ellie started talking to Paula about their next-door neighbor, Charon Epstein, who had recently undergone knee surgery. Then the conversation shifted to Ellie's son, Jeremy. Ellie mentioned that she was trying to get Jeremy to take his vitamins, but he was giving her a hard time, putting them in his pocket instead. Paula continued. She also said Jeremy was resistant taking a shower that morning. Ellie then said she was going to check on Jeremy and stepped away from the phone for a minute or two. When she came back, she told Paula that Jeremy was walking around with a razor or a razor blade and that she should get it away from him. I heard her tell Jeremy to wait, that she would get him a razor blade so he could shave, Paula said. I told Ellie I would stay on the phone, but then I heard her say, "No, Jeremy, no, no." After that, nothing. When Ellie didn't come back to the phone, I tried to hang up and call for help. Once I got a dial tone, I called Jeff Carlson, Ellie's son-in-law, and then I called Charon Epstein, their neighbor.
Charon Epstein described what happened after Paula's call. Around 10:15 a.m., Paula called me, sounding very nervous. She had told me she had been on the phone with Ellie when she heard her scream and then lost contact with her. I had just had knee surgery, so I couldn't move quickly. I walked up the driveway toward the back entrance of the Perkins house. They always left the rear laundry room door open. As Charon approached the house, she saw Jeremy at the back of the deck. He saw me and ran into the house, slamming the door behind him. I walked into the laundry room and then into the kitchen, calling for Ellie, but there was no answer. I noticed that Ellie's bedroom door was closed, which was unusual because she never kept it closed during the day. I called out, "Where's your mother, Jeremy?" But no response. After a couple more tries, Jeremy finally answered, "I don't know, she's not here." I could hear him pacing in Ellie's bedroom. Feeling uneasy, Charon went into the kitchen to look for the Rolodex. I was scared, she admitted. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the butcher block of knives was on the floor with a large knife missing. Ellie never left the knives out because of Jeremy's behavior. I picked up the phone, but it was dead. Then I saw the cord had been pulled out of the wall. I plugged it back in and the phone worked again. I called 911 and told them, "Something's going on. The child is unstable here, and I think he has done something to his mother." After calling the police, Charon stepped outside, still calling Ellie's name, but got no response. She stayed outside, worried that Jeremy might try to run. When the police arrived, they entered the house and called for Jeremy through the bedroom door. Eventually, he came out and sat on the couch. I noticed there was blood on both of his pants legs, Charon said. Jeremy kept telling the officers, "Somebody must have hurt her. Somebody must have done this to her." He kept saying, "I didn't do anything." Charon also mentioned that there were times when Jeremy believed he was Jesus Christ, Jim Morrison, or Jimi Hendrix. The events of that morning, combined with Jeremy's erratic behavior, left a chilling and tragic impression on everyone involved.
Witness account, Donald Perkins. In his deposition, Don Perkins recounted the events leading up to the tragic incident with his son Jeremy. On the night of March 12, 2003, around midnight, my wife and I went to bed. We tried to get Jeremy to sleep in his own bed, but he wouldn't. Instead, he slept on the chair in the living room, right outside our bedroom. For the past 8 months, we'd been keeping a close eye on Jeremy because of his psychotic behavior. Jeremy had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he also suffers from a condition called Candida, which is a yeast infection that attacks the intestinal walls and allows toxins to enter the body. We were told by the Maulfair group that it could cause schizophrenia. Jeremy had been slow since birth, but his condition worsened after he bumped his head on my truck about 8 months ago while working with me in my construction business. Not long after that, Jeremy started acting strange, and I had to let him go from the job. He hasn't cut his hair in months, and we have to force him to shower or brush his teeth. He's even threatened my wife Ellie before. Once he told her, "I will burn you." On the morning of March 13th, I left for work around 9 a.m. I headed to the Getty gas station, but when I got there, I realized I had forgotten my wallet at home, so I turned around and went back. I got home around 9:45, and when I walked in, Ellie said, "We've got a problem." She told me that Jeremy had pushed her into the desk when she took the vitamins out of his pocket and made him take them. I told Jeremy that if he ever laid a hand on his mother again, I'd beat him up. Ellie then told Jeremy that she couldn't take it anymore and was going to take him out to Albert's place. Albert is a guy in Springfield who treats people with mental problems using fresh fruits, vegetables, and herbs, no drugs. He's had quite a bit of success with it. I think that's what set Jeremy off. While I was there, the phone rang. It was Paula Bruschi, a close friend of Ellie's. After that, I left and went back to work. Jeremy was headed into the bathroom to clean up as I left. That was around 10 a.m. I got down to Buffalo State College and then my son-in-law called. He had just gotten off the phone with Paula and he told me that Jeremy had attacked Ellie. I immediately called home, but someone picked up the phone and then hung up. So I dialed 911, but it connected to Buffalo PD, who then transferred me to Amherst. I told the person I was speaking with that my son Jeremy had attacked my wife and that he was mentally ill. They told me they had received a call from our next door neighbor. As I raced home, I had this terrible feeling that my wife had been cut or stabbed. It's like a native instinct, something we all have within us. On March 13, 2003, while at 1435 Hopkins Road, Amherst, New York, the defendant stated to Lieutenant Gravel, "I am in here. Everything's okay. She's just busy and can't come out now. I'm not dressed, so I can't come out. Someone came in here and hurt my mother bad. She's real bad. She's down and out. She's hurt bad. I didn't do anything."
While in a patrol car in the vicinity of 1435 Hopkins Road, the defendant stated to Patrolman Fetcher and Patrolman Trevor, "I knelt down in some blood. I feel sick to my stomach and I might throw up. I saw her in there and she looked real bad. I knelt down and got blood on me. Somebody must have done it to her. I'm in shock still. Kind of. My stomach feels queasy." Referring to the injuries on his wrists, the defendant stated, "They're claw marks from playing with drumsticks."
After his arrest, Jeremy was taken to the Erie County Holding Center. The next day, on March 14, 2003, he was transferred to the Erie County Medical Center for evaluation due to his bizarre behavior. During the evaluation, Jeremy made some deeply troubling statements. He claimed that his mother was evil and that he had to kill her. He also made several delusional remarks, saying that he was Jesus Christ and had been searching for a woman named Diane for the past 2,000 years. While at the Erie County Medical Center, Jeremy described how his mother's face had started to look different to him. He said it became more devilish, with a wry smile, strange facial gestures, and a winking eye that he associated with the devil. He felt it was getting progressively worse. Despite these delusions, a CT scan was performed to rule out any organic causes, but the results showed no abnormalities. In Dr. Gawk Hale's discharge summary, it was noted that Jeremy did not show any remorse or any emotion over the death of his mother, and even remarked that he was relieved she was no longer there to bother him. During this time at the Erie County Medical Center, Jeremy started on medications including Risperdal, Inderol, and Cogentin to manage his symptoms. Let's listen to this audio clip from Jeremy Perkins.
She tried to get me vitamins, and I didn't want to take any vitamins, and she told me what to do. I was old enough to make up my own mind, and she'd tell me things to what I should do when I could make up my own mind already.
So you're saying you objected to her treating you like you were a routine, and you tried to at least make up your own mind?
Yeah.
Do I have it right?
Wait, say it again. Objected to...
Well, you tell me in your own way.
That's good. That's right. Just objected to how she treated me, because she treated me not enough respect. She gave me vitamins and I didn't know what the vitamins were for.
Well, tell me more what you mean about without respect.
Just sometimes she'd have a face and she looked like she was like evil, actually evil. Like her face turned in, like,
Describe it to me.
like her mouth would go in, and she was as if she was like the devil or something. Yeah, I was actually afraid of her. So,
Tell me more about it.
I don't know. I saw her, it would be momentary, like sometimes she'd be totally normal, and then I saw her and then face again. But I never ran into anybody else that has that brown.
Only your mother.
Go on. Oh, like like momentarily she'd be like acting normal, and then all of a sudden her face would change, and then she would act differently, and she wouldn't be herself anymore. So I thought she was evil.
Go ahead. Tell me more about it.
And like maybe take a shower. Like I didn't mind taking a shower, but didn't have like any sufficient clothes, and didn't always wash my clothes. Like I'd be missing clothes, and then she expected me to take a shower. And asked me to take a shower when it's my choice to take a shower.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Keep going.
And she'd give me tea sometimes, but I didn't really like getting tea. And she'd give me tea and hot chocolate, but I didn't want the tea or hot chocolate. Because Dad would give me the vitamins because I didn't want to have vitamins.
Ellie's obituary. Elli Perkins was a devoted wife and loving mother. She had been married to Donald E. Perkins for decades and was the mother of 2 children, Danielle, who was married to Jeffrey Carlson, and Jeremy M. Perkins. Ellie was also the cherished daughter of Jean Present and the late Edgar Present, and the beloved sister of Terry Carson and Judy Horowitz. Her passing left a deep void in the lives of her family and friends who remembered her for her kindness and dedication to her loved ones. In the days following her death, her friends and family gathered at the Rogers and Dengler Funeral Home in East Amherst to pay respects. Visiting hours were held on Tuesday, and the funeral service in her honor took place on Wednesday evening. In remembrance of Ellie, her family suggested donations to the Church of Scientology in Buffalo, a place that had been significant to her.
Losing a loved one to a horrific tragedy is an unimaginable experience that can shatter the very foundation of a family. The grief, the pain, and the overwhelming sense of loss can make it seem almost impossible to move forward. For many, the road to healing is a long and difficult journey marked by moments of deep sorrow and endless questions. For a family so deeply committed to Scientology, the process of coping with such a loss might take on a different dimension. In Scientology, there's a strong belief in the concept of dropping the body, the idea that the physical body is merely a vessel for the spirit, and that when a person dies, the spirit or the thetan simply moves on to live another lifetime. This belief in the continuity of life through multiple lifetimes can provide a unique perspective on death, where the focus is not just on the loss, but also the ongoing journey of the spirit. For Scientologists, the idea that their loved one has dropped the body and will continue to live another lifetime might offer some comfort. It suggests that the person they lost is not truly gone, but has transitioned to another phase of existence. This belief can shape how they process their grief, encouraging them to view the tragedy as part of a larger spiritual journey rather than a permanent end. Having never been Scientologists, we imagine this approach could be extremely challenging to fully express and process grief in ways that are more common in other cultures or religions. The emphasis on spiritual continuity could very well create an environment where outward expressions of sorrow are downplayed as the focus is shifted toward the idea that the loved one's spirit continues its existence elsewhere. Even with these beliefs, the pain of losing someone in such a sudden and tragic way is still profound. Do the teachings of Scientology guide them to seek spiritual counseling or engage in practices that help them confront and release the grief? Are there spiritual counselors to address the reasons behind the tragedy so they can find peace in knowing that their loved one's spirit continues on? Are Scientologists allowed to grieve? We have heard so many personal accounts of loss in Scientology where grieving is discouraged. This approach to loss must bring on its own challenges. The expectation to align with the church's belief about death and the afterlife may conflict with the natural human need to grieve and express sorrow. The concept of dropping the body may not fully alleviate the immediate pain of losing someone dear, and the journey to recovery can still be a difficult one. While Scientology's beliefs in the spirit's continuity in living other lifetimes can offer a different lens through which to view death, the experience of loss remains deeply personal. For the Perkins family, did these beliefs provide a sense of comfort and understanding? Did it help them to navigate the complexities of grief and eventually find a path forward?
What would grieving look like in Scientology? According to cs.cmu.edu, it went something like this. The day after Ellie's murder, Don Perkins was called to the Buffalo Org. He was held there for hours in a room. It was guarded by Sea Org staffers, including Mary Lou Ryle, the mother of the Church of Scientology Buffalo president, Teresa Rieger. She stood guard over the auditing area so no one could go back there. Psychiatry attacks us because they know our technology works, said Teresa Rieger of East Aurora, president of the Buffalo Church. They're making billions of dollars on drugging people, electroshocking them, and basically maiming and harming them. Upon learning the news, Jeremy's sister Danielle flew back from Scientology headquarters in Clearwater, Florida, to New York. About 5 weeks later, she returned to Clearwater to finish her training at the Flag Land Base. March 14th through the 21st, the Buffalo Org offered group processing to help public Scientologists grieving over Ellie's death. Public Scientologists are typically individuals who attend Scientology courses, participate in auditing, a key practice in Scientology, and support the church through donations, but they do so while maintaining their regular jobs, families, and lives outside the church. The Buffalo Org offered locationals. A locational in Scientology is a type of process or exercise designed to help a person become more aware of their immediate environment and bring them into the present time, often referred to as present time or PT in Scientology terms. The process typically involves a person being asked to look at or notice various objects or points in their surroundings, with the aim of helping them become more grounded and focused on the here and now. For example, in a locational, an auditor or a trained Scientologist might ask someone to look at that wall, look at the floor, look at that object, etc., while ensuring that the person acknowledges each instruction. The idea is to direct the person's attention outward, away from any troubling thoughts or emotions that they might be experiencing, and to reorient them to their current environment. This technique is often used when someone is feeling distressed, anxious, or disconnected, as a way to help them regain a sense of control and calm by anchoring them in their physical surroundings. It is considered a basic but effective tool within the practices of Scientology. Parishioners were offered opportunities to talk to any of the ministers, but org staff wasn't permitted to participate in any of this. They had to go on working. On March 22nd, a Saturday afternoon memorial service for Ellie was held at the Buffalo Org. Bob Bolt, a public and Scientology minister who did most of the Sunday services at the org, officiated. Scientology was already reeling from the Lisa McPherson tragedy, and now they had another crisis on their hands. The church's public image was at stake once again, and they wasted no time responding. Within 24 to 36 hours of Ellie Perkins' death, a group of Scientology leaders touched down in Buffalo Niagara International Airport. They came from New York City and Clearwater, Florida, determined to manage the situation. Among them was a representative from the Office of Special Affairs, or OSA, the church's legal arm, dispatched specifically from New York. The out-of-town officials quickly gathered from the local church management in Buffalo and laid down strict orders. Perkins' death was not to be discussed with anyone, especially not the press. Elli Perkins was not just a Scientologist. She was an operating Thetan, a high-level member of the church. According to their beliefs, someone at her level wasn't supposed to face such a horrific fate. Yet, there they were, dealing with another scandal that threatened to unravel the carefully controlled narrative Scientology worked so hard to maintain.
Where are they now? In January 2004, Matt Gritta, a new staff reporter for the Buffalo News, reported a somber courtroom scene unfolded as Erie County Judge Shirley Troutman ordered Jeremy M. Perkins, a 28-year-old man who tragically killed his mother, to continue receiving psychiatric treatment at a secure state mental health facility in Rochester, New York. The decision came after forensic psychiatrists R.P. Tsai and Gary N. Rosenberg testified that Perkins remained acutely psychotic despite several months of treatment with medication. This ruling extended his stay at the facility for another 6 months, with reassessment scheduled every 18 months under the state law for the criminally insane. During this hearing, Perkins' attorney John R. Nucronero made a poignant statement suggesting that if Jeremy had received proper psychiatric care, his mother would have been alive today. This tragic irony is further underscored by the psychiatrist's testimonies, which reveal that Perkins had a violent episode in 2002, where he fought with campus police while searching for a woman his internal voices had instructed him to find. Despite this alarming incident, his mother had prevented him from receiving the psychiatric care jail officials recommended. The psychiatrist painted a bleak picture of Perkins' mental health. They share that while he may never fully cure, with the right medications and therapy, he could eventually lead a functional life. However, they also warn that without these treatments, Perkins was at risk of relapsing into violent behavior. Jeremy Perkins remains incarcerated to this day. We found no evidence that he has had any contact with his family in the past 20 years.
Jeremy's father, Don, and sister Danielle are still devout Scientologists. In a letter Danielle Perkins Carlson sent to the Buffalo News, she said her brother had been given psychiatric evaluations on at least 3 different occasions. My parents also took him to a neurologist who again said he was just off in his own little world and in no danger to himself or others, she wrote. The letter did not give any specific details, and she declined to be interviewed. Danielle and Jeff Carlson eventually divorced. She went on to marry another Scientologist, a chiropractor. They have a daughter, and we can only assume that she is being raised as a third-generation Scientologist. As recently as the spring of 2023, Danielle was still actively doing Scientology courses and climbing the bridge. At last look, she was an OT5 and a highly trained and devout auditor. Listen to Danielle tell us why she's an auditor in her own words. Oh, and this video? It was done 2 years after her brother murdered their mother.
Any PCU sits down in front of me, I know I can do something to help that person. I know that I can take that person's aberrations and use standard tech, apply it to that person, and I can make that person saner.
Don also remarried. His wife is a Scientologist, and they live in Scientology's Mecca.
In November 2005, 2 years after Jeremy Perkins stabbed his mother 70 times, Scientologists flooded onto the main streets in Buffalo with great pomp and circumstance to celebrate the grand reopening of the Ideal Org. Speakers included Mr. John Daner, Senior Advisor Points of Light Foundation, Mr. Brian Davis, NAACP New York Grassroots Incorporated, and the Ellicott Neighborhood Advisory Council, Mr. Mark Zamarski, founder of the Allentown Business Association, and Mark Anthony Maciello, mayor of Buffalo. Here's a few words from the mayor.
I say to the staff and members of the Church of Scientology here in Buffalo, why shouldn't the city of Buffalo have an organization of such scope housed in this grand building? Well, why not? I therefore say to the Scientologists of this city, in this building, let's take the Church of Scientology of Buffalo to and beyond St. Hill size. As promised, and in honor of this day here, is the proclamation I'd like to read from the bottom of my heart for the people of this city to each and every one of you. And it says, whereas the aims of Scientology as stated by its founder, L. Ron Hubbard, are to create a civilization without insanity, without criminality, without war, where the able can prosper and honest beings have rights, and where man is free to rise to greater heights. And whereas the city celebrates not only what was done to restore this landmark, but more importantly, what is done inside the building to restore productivity of our people and increase their personal happiness. Now, therefore, I, Anthony M. Maciello, the mayor of this great city of Buffalo, New York, recognizing the value of L. Ron Hubbard's work and the contributions of the Church of Scientology, do hereby proclaim November 16th as the Church of Scientology of Buffalo Day. And I ask all of our residents to join this celebration, and that's signed by me on behalf of the wonderful people of Buffalo, New York. Thank you.
The ribbon cutting included rock guitarist and Buffalo native Billy Sheehan, from the Buffalo Church of Scientology, Mr. Joe Scroy, and actress Jenna Elfman. David Miscavige was front and center in town to deliver the keynote. Let's revisit what he had to say, and I quote, "Putting aside war of nations with nation, what about everyday conflict in terms of crime, or even interpersonal relationships and how to mend them? For a while, we can map the genetic blueprints through DNA. Science can't yet explain things like kindness, love, or compassion, let alone the true thrill of living, the emotional rush of a swelling symphony, or a mother's joy of heart with her child's first step. And what of our traditional values? What makes us all brothers to another, regardless of race, creed, or religion? These are the values that comes from within. They transcend what can be discovered through probes and microscopes. As we look down these streets, we can speak of unemployment. We can speak for the need for renewal. We can speak of all else that plagues every part of this world in terms of addiction, illiteracy, criminality, and immorality, not to mention economic instability. But if we do, my friends, let's not speak in terms of those problems. Let's speak in terms of solutions. Solutions for that which can solve every one of them. Because what drives it all is the individual, the forgotten worker, and our prominent leaders. If revitalization is what we seek, then let's help revitalize the individual himself." End quote. Yes, I know. If you're asking yourself, what in the world did he just say? That was just a whole bunch of nothing. Lots of words that meant nothing. Sadly, there was no mention of Ellie, Jeremy, or the Perkins family.
Economic stability? How laughable. When you pay people who dedicate 1 billion years $50 a week, and if and when they decide to leave, they owe you a freeloader's debt. Science can't explain kindness, but can you? Is kindness separating children from their parents, disconnecting families, and treating the elderly like yesterday's trash? The forgotten worker? Could those be the very people who are dedicated to your cause, sleeping in dorms with bunk beds 3 high and 4 deep? Sharing one bathroom and eating rice and beans? How ironic that in his keynote, David Miscavige talks about a mother's joy of heart with her child's first step. How many Sea Org mothers have missed their child's first step after being sent off to another city to serve for the greater good? Or how many Sea Org mothers never had the opportunity to give birth to that baby? Compassion? Let's ask Lisa McPherson about the 17 days of compassion she experienced in the Fort Harrison Hotel. The compassionate last ride that she had to the hospital 45 minutes away as she slowly, painfully took her last breath. Where is the compassion that Scientology showed Jeremy Perkins when he needed it most, declaring him PTS-3 psychotic and refusing him services? Solutions? What solutions, Mr. Miscavige?
The battle continues to escalate tonight between the Church of Scientology and its opponents.
Scientology is just a big, fat global scam.
There's been a lot of publicity recently about an episode of South Park that ridiculed the religion and fellow Scientologist Tom Cruise. Now an ad appearing in the LA Weekly publication is blaming the actor and the church for the death of a woman. The ad reads, quote, "Thanks, Tom Cruise and the Church of Scientology for your expert advice on mental health." The ad goes on to explain how a member of the church named Elli Perkins was killed by her son who wasn't being medicated for his schizophrenia. The Church of Scientology opposes psychiatry and psychiatric medication, and Cruise has been very outspoken about his beliefs that mental health issues can be treated without medication.
As we close this chapter on the Jeremy Perkins story, we are once again left with more questions than answers, more heartbreak than resolution. This heartbreaking story is not just about a young man lost in the depths of untreated mental illness, nor is it solely about a belief system that failed him when he needed help the most. It's about the fragility of the human mind, the complexities of faith, and the devastating consequences that can arise when those two forces collide. Elli Perkins was a devoted mother who believed with all her heart that she was doing the best for her son. Jeremy Perkins was a young man trapped in a world of delusion and paranoia, abandoned by the very system his family trusted to guide them. This is a story that underscores the importance of compassion, understanding, and most critically, the need for appropriate mental health care. As we reflect on the events that led to that fateful day in March 2003, we must also consider the broader implications. What could have been done differently? How many other families are struggling with similar challenges, caught between their beliefs and the harsh realities of mental illness? How can we as a society ensure that tragedies like this are prevented in the future? The story of Jeremy Perkins is a sobering reminder that mental illness is real, it is dangerous, and cannot be ignored. It also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of rejecting proven medical treatments in favor of untested alternatives. Faith, while powerful, is not a substitute for the help so many desperately need. In the end, this story is about more than just the Perkins family. It's about all of us. It's about the choices we make, the beliefs we hold, and the impact they have on those we love. It's about the importance of reaching out for help when the weight of the world becomes too much to bear alone. For us, we will never again think of March 13th as L. Ron Hubbard's birthday, but as a stark reminder that the Church of Scientology failed Ellie and Jeremy Perkins, devoted Scientologists.
Both Gretchen and Dawn mourn the loss of their friend and worry what will become of the son she loved so dearly.
He has to live the rest of his life knowing what he did to a mother that he loved very much.
The sad truth is, Ellie would have done anything for him. Al would have died for him, and she did.
Our hearts go out to all those who have been touched by this tragedy and to those who continue to struggle with the complexities of mental illness. Remember, you are not alone, and there is help out there. Reach out, speak up, and let's work together to ensure that stories like this are never repeated. Thank you for joining us on this difficult journey, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Join us next time on the Sins of Scientology. Until then, keep questioning, keep seeking, and may your journey be as rich and enlightening as the stories you encounter.